and you can take over after that. How's that sound?
Cool.
What does that look? Full screeny? Can you try to share, Liz? Because you're a moderator. You know what? Yeah, that's right. Great to see you all here. Thank you for joining us. We're giving everybody a minute to join the channel. This is our first time doing a Discord stage. Pretty cool. Welcome, welcome. We are coming to you live here from Berkeley. WeWork Berkeley on a rainy East Bay day. Awesome to see folks popping in. We're super excited. We got a really cool video going on for you today. Hey, Sebastian, can you try joining the stage? There you are. Good, cool. Are you able to?
How do I turn my camera on? Sorry, guys.
I had to go to turn on camera at the bottom of those 5 options and then do preview, and then it let me start it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, we're doing this for the first time, but it will be exciting.
We did do test runs, I promise, but it's never quite the same.
Part of the experience. I'm in Durham, North Carolina, and we got Liz over there down in Colombia.
Okay, let's give it, folks, just one more minute here, and then we'll kick off the festivities. I'm gonna join my stateful hat club. I think 2 minutes, 10:05, we will get going. So grab your glasses of water, whatever else it is. Sort of wish everyone could talk. If you folks are having any issues with seeing or hearing us, please mention it in the main channel or send me a message. This is pretty fun, actually. Okay, cool, 1 minute.
We played a final countdown. Yeah, like they do on New Year's Eve.
Lorenz, are we up and running? I don't know if you can do a thumbs up or something like that. Okay, well, I think this is our group today. Thank you all so much for being here. I think we should get started. What do you think, Liz?
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy. I think we're all very happy that you're here. I'm Liz Parody, head developer advocate and stateful. And today we're very, very excited to share Runme version 1. So we've been working very hard for the last couple of months for this release, and we hope you enjoy it and you can install the extension, play with it, and who knows, maybe open an issue or a GitHub pull request or connect with other developers here. So we're very open and we're very happy to be here sharing with you this very important milestone for us. So we would love to hear your input. If you have any questions, suggestions, or if you just want to network with other developers, you can start conversations here in general channel on Discord. And so that's it. Now let's watch a super fun video made by our CEO, Adam, that you already heard, Adam Christian. He grew up, a little short video about him is like he grew up in the Pacific Northwest. He's a snowboarder and a scuba diver, and he's working in tech startups since he moved to the Bay Area at age 21. Mostly building stuff for devs, and he keeps doing it, so it's great. And he started programming when he was 9 on a computer given by his grandfather. So if you want to tell us when you start programming, you can also tell us in the general channel. He started when he was 9. I started when I was like 25, so it's all ages. He studied computer science in business at Washington State University. He loves traveling and whiskey, and he's the one proficient speaking in conversational German. So Adam, the stage is yours. So show us the amazing baby video you made.
Before we move on, thank you, Liz, for the emceeing. So everybody knows our other moderator, Sebastian, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I don't have
I was going to introduce you.
Oh, please. I do have a bio. I was just going to say
Okay.
ChatGPT wrote it for me, so.
Oh, okay. Liz, you have
Yes,
one.
Yeah. So so Sebastian is our CTO, and well, he's not only proficient in German, he's like German, and he's a coder extraordinaire. This is what ChatGPT did for him. So he's a coder extraordinaire, fluent in RX, GAs, and dreaming in code. He once tried to program a toaster to make coffee. I don't think that went very well, but who knows? And he always wore baseball hats, and he could probably run a small server farm. So that's Sebastian. Thank you for joining us here. Yeah, so here we are.
Awesome.
Let's get started.
All right, so before we preface this, folks, it is made to be slightly tongue-in-cheek. We're not trying to be taking ourselves overly serious, and we're just excited to be here today, and we put a ton of work into both the product and sort of all of the communications and marketing around it. So thank you for being receptive to that stuff, and hopefully this gives you a little giggle, and I'm going to try to play the video now, so hold on 1 second.
Drum roll.
And
I can't do a drum roll without drum.
All right, in case you're ever trying to do this yourselves, folks, it's important to pick the right frame rates for this stuff. Okay. Can folks see that black screen ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Let's all mute and off we go. Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special launch event. I'm Adam Christian, the CEO of Stateful, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to our latest innovation. It's called Runme. Runme is a game-changing developer productivity tool that has been designed with the sole purpose of helping you better operate your code. With Runme, we are bringing together world-class design, cutting-edge technology, and the most intuitive developer experience ever. It will revolutionize the way you work. We've been working tirelessly with our team of experts to create a product that will help you streamline your workflow, increase your productivity, and ultimately contribute code faster. With Runme, you can say goodbye to copy-paste and say hello to your repo's future control plane. Runme is more than just a productivity tool. It's a game changer for the entire software development industry. We believe that every developer deserves access to the best tools and technology available. And with Runme, it's exactly what you'll get. This is by far and away the best Runme that we've ever made. Don't take it from me. Let's hear what our users have to say.
And I will never forget the experience. From the start to the end, the experience is great. First, you need to wash your hands with warm chocolate. Then a gentle towel, also warm. You clean up your hands around the table. And there was experience with liquid nitrogen, an amazing coffee experience, and each course was mind-blowing to me. You will never get bored, and of course, you will never forget this experience, but it's worth it.
Feel this rush of excitement and energy, and the beat of making you want to dance either alone or with somebody else or with a group of people. It's always fun.
From the moment I laid eyes on this miracle product, my life would never be the same again. And let me tell you, it didn't disappoint. It exceeded my wildest expectations and more. It's the kind of product that would make you jump out of your bed in the morning, eager to start your day and conquer the world.
This is the best thing you've ever used. It can predict the future. It always knows what's going on. Not just now, but also tomorrow, the day after, next year. That's not it. That's not the end of it. It can also teleport you around the world. Your parents can be eating a baguette, be drinking a glass of wine, red wine to be specific. Boom. You're in Tokyo, you're eating a bowl of ramen, and you are enjoying some sushi. Don't forget to drink the sake. But that's not the end of it. This thing can also read minds. It can read your dog's mind. It can read your boyfriend's mind. It can read your girlfriend's mind. It can read your doctor's mind. It can read your own mind. It is mind blowing. It's basically the best thing since the GNU Compile collection. Check it out. Find the function.
A4. Reflection call. Compile and run. I just spent the past month doing nothing but solving this. And just like that, it's done. Was it really worth it? Hell yeah.
Wow, I can't imagine being more convinced than that. Now, let's head to New York City, celebrate this special occasion with Laura and Christian. Over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, Christian. It's good to be here with you today. What a treat.
What a time to be alive. I'm so thrilled to be here with that enormous crowd.
Hey there, folks. We're live from Times Square, and we're counting down the minutes until the code drops. I can just feel the building of anticipation.
That's right, Laura. And while we're waiting, let's talk about something that got the tech industry buzzing, the launch of Runme 1.0.
Woohoo! It sounds to me like this new tool is going to revolutionize the way we write, test, and execute code. It's like magic in your editor.
And it supports all sorts of frameworks, languages, and stacks like Ruby, Python, Kubernetes, or Docker. Runme got you covered.
And the best part is, you don't have to fiddle around with multiple terminals or command prompts. Just run your code snippets with a couple of clicks and voila!
Incredible. And it's launching today. It couldn't be sooner given all the complexity of today's labels.
What a great way to start up Q2, am I right?
Absolutely. I'm always thinking about all the time we're saving with this new tool. We'll be coding circles with our former copy-pasting forward stops in no time.
You said it, Christian. With all the cool new features Runme's got, like click to run and cloud integrations, we're going to be operating our code like ninjas.
Ooh, bring on the code challenges. We are ready for everything with Runme on our side.
So it's almost time. So let's raise the glass to Runme version 1.0 to a future full of coding adventures.
Cheers to that, Laura, and cheers to our audience. Happy launch day. And we're back.
All right, everyone, you asked for it. The countdown begins.
Hello, Adam. Are you there? Of course, technical issues. I mean, it's always happening all day. Obviously this was going to happen, but it's part of the game. So here we are, and we have 20 people connected, which is great. I was really enjoying that video.
Yeah, like I blame WeWork's Wi-Fi, but I can assure you, while the video's been going on, we did actually drop version 1. It happened. And I have the proof right here. Woo! Right there. So this wasn't all a show. It actually happened. Like the CI was running simultaneously. Let's see.
Did it?
And I'm
oh my gosh. Okay, folks, did it drop me from the stage?
Yes, but you're back now.
You're back.
What point in the video did it drop? Were you able to see any of the video?
When the cube rotates.
Okay, right, let me finish it. Gosh, I'm still learning Discord.
I mean, this is how now you know why WeWork went from like a $40 billion company to a $4 billion company. It's because they have shitty Wi-Fi. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, WeWork.
Okay, spinning.
Yes, there.
And we're back.
All right, everyone, you asked for it. The countdown begins now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Introducing the latest, greatest, and most affordable Runme, just that's all around the world. Version 1.0.
Folks, it's the real deal. The kind of thing that makes you wonder how you ever lived without it.
That's right. Download it now. We will throw in a free set of steak knives.
Wait, really? We're giving away steak knives?
Who doesn't love steak knives?
Fair point. So there you have it, folks. The best step tool of the year. Plus free steak knives. What more could you want?
Nothing. That's what. So download it now, be more productive, and join the Weekly Ops community today.
Woo! Maybe we should have. Maybe that was a perfectly timed intermission so that you could go drop that code and go to production. So,
and we did show, that version 1 is out there. It's being distributed to the marketplace as we speak, which is very exciting.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but I hope that you were somewhat entertained by the video, and we're going to drop the link in the general channel and on various social medias in case folks are interested in watching it or sharing it. We think it was a lot of fun to make, even though we're not.
I love the video.
Not professional filmmakers. We make software, but we enjoyed it anyway. So I think we should move on. I'll drop off the streaming, Liz, and do you want to go ahead and share the deck?
Sure. Well, now let's talk to the function of what that is going to like. Yes, he will talk about the Runme kernel architecture, some share sessions between the notebook and the CLI, some budgets, notebook terminal, etc., and testing docs in CI/CD. So, Sebastian, the stage is yours.
Thank you. I think you might have to stop sharing before I can start. Here we go. Screens, entire screen. Okay, I'm gonna start with a high frame rate, and you guys let me know how it goes. So let's see. I was trying to have the drum roll effect and not upgrade this here before version 1 drops, but let's see if it should have done it. Oh yeah, here we go. I'd already installed it, but I have to reload. So, boom. Effectively, I'm now running on version 1. I think this is actually the first time I'm running version 1 as version 1. Cool. So let's see. Let's go through it line by line. I just have to remind myself real quick. Okay, so what's essentially has changed in Runme since before version 1 is that we now essentially treat this notebook UX that you guys are probably familiar with. If you're not, this essentially opens any README file, most notably the one that every developer has probably encountered before, readme.md, and lets you execute the code snippets contained here in these code block in a code block fashion. And what we essentially have changed in version 1 is we separated out the extension and the kernel, and the kernel here is what one parses the markdown file into a notebook, and what makes this execution here work. So when I click the play button, before that was basically you could almost think about it like a monolith. It was coupled with the extension. And the reason why this is so important in a way is because now we are fully interoperable between what happens in the notebook, but also what happens in the CLI, because Runme also has a terminal interface, which is like a command line interface. So for example, if I say hello, Runme 1.0, in these two, they're not meant for that, but I'm just going to use them for that anyway. It's just for the sake of the demo. I can essentially run this code block here, and then when I click on the CLI button here, you will get the same exact values here. So I could do token 1, token 2, and go back to my terminal, and I can do, let's see what step this is. I don't know this from the top of my head. Okay, so run me, I can actually just do run me, and then I can select it from this nice terminal UI that we've built in the past. And when I do, you'll see that, actually this was the wrong one. Sorry, service token. Here we go, token 1, token 2. So what that essentially means is, like conceptually, you can start a session inside of your notebook and then just hop into your CLI and pick it up from there, or vice versa, right? So that's very powerful. We think there's a few use cases where that is actually like truly helpful. But more importantly, what that will let us do is essentially guarantee that like whatever's being executed in a notebook executes the exact same way, like 100% the same in the terminal, right? And that we think is very important for this like aspect of testability. So on one hand, it creates for a better user experience, but on the other hand, it also makes anything you do in these notebooks verifiable, right? Because like you can run it in the CLI and in CI, which we're going to show last. Cool. Let me take a quick look at the agenda. Yeah, so another thing that we've been working on, and this is sort of like in a preview right now, it is available in version 1, is how we treat background processes. So let me maybe open another README. This one here is to run a Dino server. Let me just quickly install it, which is easy. I can essentially just click my way through the notebook, sequentially. And here's a background task. The way, background tasks work is, if you have a watcher like Webpack, any like Bazel, anything that just kind of like runs in the background, it has to be running for you to do a development, is basically a background task. And you can set this flag here, and then the way our notebook kernel, like our Runme kernel will execute it is slightly different because it won't be blocking, right? So now if I hit the play button here, you'll see that it comes up, and then it will just essentially yield control back to the user, right? And we've been working on feverishly, outside of essentially just re-architecting how Runme works, is also a better relationship between like the integrated terminal and VS Code and like a notebook-based terminal. So as you can see now here, I can actually see what's going on with this background process right in the notebook, right? And we think that's very powerful, and we are continuing to work this to build this out so that even interactive scripts, like anything that requires a user to input something as you go, once you start the script, scan it in, will work too. That's currently hidden behind a flag in the Runme settings. So for those of you who want to be on the bleeding edge, you can turn it on down here. There's like a terminal toggle for the interactive one and the non-interactive one. So there's basically background, interactive, non-interactive. And as we're working through these different use cases, we're also figuring out if these distinctions that we made there in these different types still make sense, right? So, but try it out, give us feedback. We want to know and want to hear, what do you think and how you want to use it. So that's another big one that we've worked on. So essentially what is happening is like, you get to have the terminal in the integrated terminal in VS Code, at the same time as looking at the notebook, right? If you close the notebook, the terminal, the task itself inside of VS Code will still continue to run. So there's also something about like how the life cycle works here, right? So it doesn't interfere with like your development process. Cool. Before I go and show you guys the CI use case, another thing that we most recently released, and I encourage you to use, is essentially, let me bring up my regular VS Code. Here it is. A way how you can drop a badge on basically anything that like lives on the web, or that, oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. That lives on the web, or that is, even within a notebook in here. And like what this badge does is like, you can essentially instrument it in a way where you set up what repo and what particular file inside of that repo, like renders this notebook here that I'm looking at, right? So if somebody, goes and looks at it on GitHub, for example, try that. Important little linkedy website on stateful. gets the same button, right? And when I click on it, it asks me, do you want to run this inside of VS Code? So when I do, it will like launch VS Code, clone into the repo, and then essentially present you with this notebook here, right? I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to like change my setup, but it's very handy and you can use it in all sorts of places. Another place where we've used it is on blog posts, and most notably, I encourage you to read the introduction post. You can also make a regular link out of it. You don't have to use the badge, right? Essentially what this allows is like deep linking. So yeah, check that out. We're going to be talking more about that. And now for sort of like the headline feature of this release is, since we separated out the kernel from the notebook experience so that the CLI can also use it and basically have interoperability between the two, we wanted to experiment with essentially providing like testable documentation. I mean, I did write a blog post about this a while back, and if you feel free to read it, but I'm just going to show you a little demo now. So what we essentially have done is we took our friends at Buoyant, who are creating this Kubernetes native service mesh called Linkerd 2 to be specific. We went to their website and looked at their getting started guide, which is essentially just, like the same old idea of, like narrative instructions intertwined with commands that you can run, or that you're supposed to copy and paste in this specific scenario. And what that will do is like it takes you through the process of setting up, your Linkerd and essentially exercising its functionality. So you can like, by the time you get down here to the end of it, you have a good sense of like what this is all about, right? And what it does for you. What we've seen in the past, and this is like sort of like something we keep hearing as we talk with fellow developers, is that documentation is great as long as it's well maintained. And what I mean by that is like the documentation, just like code, ages really quickly, like after it's been written, right? So what we wanted to address with Runme is give you a toolkit and tools so you can conceivably, and there's obviously differences, right? When this is appropriate, or like when this makes sense and when it doesn't. But we wanted to equip you with tools so you can essentially verify that anything on here that's on this documentation page will actually work in actuality, right? And this both includes when these commands change, but also the software, right? Because like the biggest problem that we see is that, the documentation that describes your service repo library will diverge from its documentation. And it can't happen on both sides, right? Either the documentation is stale or the software is stale, or the other way around, right? So what it really does, what Runme helps you do is like, ensure that that doesn't happen by putting it in continuous integration and essentially just testing it every time there's a commit, right? A commit could be a textual change, or it could be even like, Linkerd itself, the binary that is being used inside of this example here changing. So before I, talk myself into a circle, I wanted to show you exactly what this is doing. So when you look at this here, you'll probably see the resemblance, right? This is literally the same exact file, because our friends at Buoyant, who create Linkerd, actually maintain their website publicly. So we just kind of went and took their markdown file here. We basically forked their repo, and with very little changes, there's almost no changes to this file here. Use it as a subject to showcase the CI example. I hope they forgive us, or even better, they are excited about it. So I can click this button here. I do happen to have a Kubernetes cluster hooked up to GKE and all that, so this will work for me. But that's not the point, right? What I'm trying to showcase here is like you can run it here, and it will work with your local setup and your local environment, right? In CI, obviously, this is not the case. We can't have your local setup be transferred to CI. So what we've done is we created. Let me actually show you this over here. This README file that will also conveniently open when you click this button on GitHub, and we have links to that even in a blog post that we're going to publish later today. And it has a couple of instructions on here that are mainly about like creating the environmental conditions. So this is like we're using GKE, which is Google Cloud's managed Kubernetes offering. And there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do to authenticate against it, right? And we documented this in like sort of a Runme fashion here, where you should be able to just kind of like run through it, top down, which I'm going to skip ahead just for the sake of time. But at the end of it, what really happens is there's this command here called bats, and it runs a file called getting started bats. And what this does is basically it defines test cases in a test suite in this framework that's called bats. It's like bash automation testing system. It's something that's like fairly commonly used to test CLIs or anything that has something to do with the command line, right? It could also be SSH into a server and do a bunch of stuff, check some conditions, and then say successful or not. It turned out that it was actually really helpful for taking every step in this README here, in this Markdown file, and write a little test case around it, right? And what it really does is like it just runs it, right? It really just says, I abstracted away the command here because it passes in the directory and all that, but we can neglect that for the moment. But then what it really does is like, just like a user, it just runs every command. And depending on what the command does, right? And it happens so that like Linkerd has its own, sort of like checking mechanism, whether or not you're, ready to go to the next step. We both utilize that as well as checks against the Kubernetes cluster itself, which we are using a library that is native to the stats system, right? But the way you can imagine is like it runs a command, it checks the output of the command. In this case, we're just asserting that a couple of lines show up that like, indicate success. And we check the error code. And on the server side, or like on the cluster side, we're not just only checking what the client, the CLI client Linkerd does, but we're also checking the cluster state. And since Kubernetes is sort of eventual consistent, this will take some time, right? And sometimes it's seconds, sometimes it's minutes. It's really just kind of this eventual consistency mechanism is not, time predictable in that sense. So this library is really great because it kind of lets you express a complex, like precondition or post-condition check, whatever you want to use it for, in a very fluent way, right? So, and essentially what, you can do then, you can just run it. And I'm running this right now here live against a cluster that I have inside of Kubernetes, inside of GKE, a Kubernetes cluster. But we're not going to like sit around and watch that happen. I did this run. I ran it earlier inside of CI. We configured this, just like any other GitHub workflow to run every time somebody pushes to this repo, right? And you can think about more complex cases where you even like want to check anytime somebody makes a commit to another repo, which is maybe that binary, that Linkerd binary that's on the test, right? But we wanted to keep it intentionally simple. And what essentially will happen is that it just runs through all those test cases and eventually tears it down and cleans up after itself. One thing to note is that unlike unit test cases, this is an integration test, right? So there's a cluster that is a shared resource. So we can only really run one job at a time, which is okay because the whole process takes about like 5 to 6 minutes, give or take, which is actually not bad at all for the complexity of what's involved in here. It's basically like installing Linkerd, checking that it works, installing a test application, an example application, meshing it with the service mesh, and then kind of doing all of these processes in reverse. And at the end of it, essentially just, asserting that everything, like in between, everything worked, and then at the end of it, tearing it down. And GitHub Actions takes care of making sure that we don't schedule multiple jobs concurrently. There's a feature inside of GitHub Actions that does queuing for you. So let's just flip back real quick. I'm not going to show all of it, but just so you kind of get a sense of what's going on in the cluster. It looks like we're not quite at that step where we install this emoji Vodo test app that the Linkerd folks, the Buoyant folks have created to showcase how Linkerd works. But we should get to that one soon. But as you can see here, there is like activity going on in the cluster. And essentially what I'm doing here with these two terminals, embedded terminals in the notebook is I'm just inspecting the cluster state every second for a particular namespace, one being Linkerd and the other one being emoji Vodo. One is for Linkerd itself, it's control plane, the thing that like exposes the service mesh to a user, and emoji Vodo is the namespace that contains that application. But is simplistically the way you can think about it is that you could just sit here and watch this for 6 minutes and it run through it end to end, right? We now have reached the step where it creates the emoji Vodo application inside of the cluster. It will then start meshing it and just go through these individual steps that are outlined in here. anyways, we're not going to wait for that to all finish. There is a video that I made, both a short clip that just kind of explains what's happening and a long form video that is a time lapse that is on YouTube that we're going to publish as part of a blog post. The link we'll make available, but you can also go to our website, go on blog, and just see this here, right? If you're interested. It also explains all these moving pieces again that I just talked through. And yeah, that's basically what this thing does. And we're really excited about it because this is sort of like for the first time ever that you can conceivably, and I've done it, against a cluster, and you could think about doing this against an Azure cluster and an AWS cluster, and fill in the blank, or like other CI systems, where we can use this Runme toolkit and string together a setup that within 5 or 6 minutes runtime will give you a guarantee that like anything that is on here that your user, a developer that like is interested in Linkerd, that it will work, right? And that's really powerful, specifically if this is exactly what your onboarding process looks like for your open source project, right? But it doesn't quite stop there. Conceivably, you can use all these tools and the toolkit itself, Runme, and Bats and all these other frameworks to like do the same thing for your for your README, right? For your internal service, for your application. There's really no end to it. The reason why we chose an open source project here is because we can do it in public, right? And you guys can show, can see it, and you can even go on GitHub, Linkerd website under the stateful handle, and like literally like watch this running in real time, right? Anyways, I could forcefully break it now to show you guys how it fails, but I think we're just gonna move on. And before we go though, I do encourage you to read this blog post. One aspect of it that myself and the team are really interested in is like, we chose a particular setup for this demo that includes, Linkerd, a Kubernetes cluster, Bats, and a assertion library that lets us assert what Linkerd does, but also what's happening in the cluster. But we also understand that, that's not the most generic setup for everybody, right? We do believe that you could do a lot with it, right? But at the same time, we're already thinking about like what the sort of next generation and next iteration could look like of making Runme based as part of a toolkit, making this even easier, right? And there's a lot of thinking behind like not having to do a separate test suite and just including assertions and inside of the notebook and doing that against the cell output. And there's a couple of more things in here that we're just really curious on. We really want your feedback. We really want to understand if this is something that you like, right? Is this something that you want? And then in specificity, what is it that you like? What is your problem you're looking to solve, right? So please come talk to us. Hop on Discord, email me, Sebastian@stateful.com. Find me on Twitter. Do all of these things. Just let me know and let us know. And yeah, that's the CI demo. Let me see if I covered everything. I think so. Yeah. So that kind of concludes this demo section of what we are excited to launch today. So it's not just that we launched a software product in version 1. We also unlocked a capability that we think is something that's been missing. And we hope that it will lead to a much better and a more seamless developer experience for really using anything, right? Whether that is like an open source project, or if you are on a team and you have team members that have certain workflows that they have to work through, right? Like, why shouldn't we test them like we test code, right? And we do have integration tests for our code. Why shouldn't we have that for our docs, right? Yeah, that's my section. I think we have a roadmap part, but before we go there, I'll give it back to Liz, just in case I'm skipping ahead.
Thank you. So I would love to hear what was your favorite feature or functionality that Sebastian just presented. So if you can let us know in the general channel or also in this chat, we would love to hear that. So the next thing is that we're going to announce the community meeting, which is, let me share my screen very quickly. So the community meeting here, yes. So being able to connect with the community, to hear your thoughts, opinions, to network with other developers, or even have casual conversations is very important for us. But today we want to announce that every 2 weeks we will have a community meeting here in Discord where we will answer your questions for users and contributors, and we will send a follow-up agenda, an email with the follow-up agenda. So basically, it's a show and tell of Runme with the latest and greatest functionality. So we want to be more involved with the community. So yeah, we will start doing this. So we hope you can engage with us. And yeah. So finally, we will have our roadmap that will also be presented by Sebastian.
I'll try to keep it short this time. Let's see. Let me share my screen real quick. Ready, go live. Go do it. Here we go. Hope you guys can you hear and see me? Did I lose everybody?
We see you, but we don't see your screen.
Okay. Well, let me try this again. Maybe I need to go with a higher frame rate. Still not? You guys don't see that?
No, I see it.
Well, okay, good. Okay, cool. So from a roadmap perspective, there's a lot of things that we have planned that go more into depth, but also more into breadth. So instead of like laying out an exact sort of like order of operations sequence of projects that we're going to be working on, we really want to like hear what resonates as part of this demo, as part of version 1, and as part of what people want to do with it, right? But like more concretely, in the next couple of weeks, what we're going to be doing is we're going to finish up this terminal integration here. There are still a couple of rough edges, which is why parts of it, or a large part of it, is still hidden behind a feature flag. Feel free to try it out, but like there might be some rough edges here and there. So let us know about any sort of like edge cases you run into. Another thing that we want to be doing is, and I figured it's probably easier to explain this as part of this notebook here, is when we first released Runme, or like even the incremental releases we've done since, we've been pretty stringent about like the content type that we support in terms of like, and I say support, I mean runnable, like running. And that right now is basically anything that's shell compatible, like Bash, C shell, fill in the blank. And we kind of like made it so that any other language, either because it's specified here, or we use a little neural net called guesslang to predict, reasonably what's inside of the cell, we've turned off. So if I were to, I could probably just do this right now. If I say, maybe say Python in here, which is obviously wrong, right? Let's see, step 2. It will essentially like not let you, edit that cell anymore, right? And let's see if I can, yeah, here we go. So it rendered it as like, essentially like markdown natively formatted to like match Python, right? And this is not valid Python, which is like why that doesn't show up, right? But long story short is we have gotten like requests for people that wanted to have like things like YAML, JSON, like things that just kind of like happen to be inside of your notebook to be also like editable, because it sometimes influences, because it modifies state within the notebook, within the repo, sorry, and then also state within the notebook, to be less strict about that, right? So we're going to be working on that. It's easier said than done. So we're working through some use cases there. And similarly, we're also exploring ways of like having, code blocks in here, right? And how to make them executable without necessarily, like bringing all of these runtime environments, like, from Python to Ruby and all of languages into the notebook, right? There's probably clever ways how we can do that through Bash, but we think it's going to like just add, what's going to broaden the use cases of what Runme can do. So those are kind of concrete things. We also want to look into making it so that we can transparently hide commands that are not applicable to your platform, and explore Windows support. So if you're like a developer that exclusively develops on Windows and is not using the Windows subsystem for Linux, please come talk to us. We really kind of like want to understand what the use cases are, what sort of development you do, front end, back end, data, what have you, just so we can get that right. Right now, and I want to say this explicitly, like PowerShell specifically on any platform, specifically on Windows, is not supported. We kind of kept a little rudimentary, I want to say, execution framework, that the old one that used to run inside of the extension that will allow you to do some like rudimentary stuff with PowerShell. But this idea of like, you know, the shared session state between notebook and CLI and terminal and all that, it will not work on PowerShell. It will work on the Windows subsystem for Linux. It will work in code spaces. It will work in attached containers locally, if you like dev containers. It will work in all these environments, but like we're not Windows native yet. And but we do want to consider that, and you know, like it's sort of also up to you to tell us what you want, right? And we're going to be working on that too. And that's sort of like, you know, like the you know, mixed bag of things that we currently that's right you know, in front of us. And we want to take some time to then prioritize what the next larger, you know, projects that we want to tackle with Runme, use cases, you know, broaden its functionality. And obviously we want to hear about people using it in CI and CD and what they do with it. Yeah, that sort of concludes that section. Back to you, Liz.
Well, thank you. This is it. So we really appreciate all of you joining us. I hope you can install this version. You can play with it. You can give us feedback, or yeah, you can recommend it to other people because it's really fun. You know, there are functionalities. So thank you for participating in this event. Yeah, I hope you have fun with the release. And
awesome.
We're always here in Discord. So if you have anything to add, like we're here in Discord in the general channel.
Cool. Awesome, Liz. And, you know, like, check our Twitter, our LinkedIn and all that. We're going to be sending out links to the blog post, to the CI job, to, you know, we're going to like probably spend some time, you know, incorporating some of the stuff that we built into our documentation. Just real quick, if you haven't looked at that yet, go on the documentation section. It also tells you a lot about what Runme can do for you. But yeah, thanks for, you know, joining. And Adam, anything you have to say before we sign off?
No, that was great. Really excited to get this out there. If anybody has questions or comments, feel free to type them in the chat. We can answer them. And after a few minutes of that, we will wrap. Give you guys a second to type in your Q&A. Curious about. Thanks for the positive feedback, folks. We appreciate it. Good to see you all here.
Also excited to see Mr. Adam Bobik on the channel, who was pretty instrumental in helping us get the kernel architecture on the road. And he's still, you know, doing code reviews. So thanks for that, Adam. The other Adam, not this CEO Adam over here. Cool. Well,
lots of good love there.
Yeah, if there are no specific questions, you know, we're going to be sending out when our community meeting is, and we very much encourage you to, you know, like, even if you just want to know what Runme is, right? If you know, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit here in this meeting, we're happy to explain it again, right? Just show up to the meeting, ask us any questions. We're happy to like explain it to you.
Thank you all.
All right, let's wrap it. See you all in Discord.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.